Quick game. Don't overthink it. Just picture a bridge or an image of a bridge in your head right now. Got it? Now, if you speak German, there's a decent chance you have imagined something that is elegant, slender, pretty. On the other hand, if you speak Spanish, you might have imagined something that is strong, robust, sturdy. The same bridge, two completely different images. And the reason is almost stupidly small. In German, the word bridge is feminine. In Spanish, the word bridge is masculine. And if you speak any language with gendered nouns, if the word bridge is a feminine noun, then you would think of a bridge just like the German speaker would do. And vice versa. If it's masculine, then maybe you've imagined something strong, just like the Spanish speakers have imagined. So here's the question that this whole video is about. Is your language quietly shaping the way you see reality? Or is that just a fun idea that is way too good to be true? This is one of the most famous ideas in all of language science. It's been hijacked by sci-fi movies. It's been misquoted in 1,000 TikTok videos. And it has a name that sounds like a law firm. The Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis. Here's my promise. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where the line is between the myth and the science. So let's go. There are two names that are very important in this story. Edward Sapir, a serious linguist, and his student Benjamin Lee Whorf, who, and this is true, was a fire insurance inspector by day. And it was the day job that lit the spark, because Whorf noticed something at the factories he routinely visited. Workers were super alert and careful around gasoline drums that had the word full marked on them, but around drums where the word empty was marked, they tossed cigarettes nearby. They were relaxed and just careless overall. The problem is, an empty gas drum is not actually empty. It is full of an invisible explosive vapor, which is arguably more dangerous. But the word empty just told their brains, nothing is here. So there is no risk. So here Whorf had a clever idea. What if the word literally shaped how they behaved? Now this idea comes with two varying degrees of strengths, and mixing them up, this is where a lot of people go wrong. You can say that there is a strong Sapir-Whorf hypothesis and then there's a weak version of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Let's start with the strong one. So the strong one simply means that your language is like a prison. If your language has no word for something, then you literally cannot think it. And this is what is called as linguistic determinism. The weak version is more like a pair of tinted glasses. It does not stop you thinking anything, but it just nudges you to what you are going to notice first. And this is what is known as linguistic relativity. Now, I want you to hold on to that. You have the cage, linguistic determinism, you're inside a cage, versus the glasses, linguistic relativism, which means we're just going to taint the way you see reality. We're not going to stop you from seeing it or not being able to think about it. I think almost everything one might have heard about this topic is actually the people arguing about the cage. Starting with the most famous fact of all, which is, spoiler alert, wrong. You've heard this one. Eskimos have 100 word for snow, and this is the proof that languages can carve up your reality. Well, yeah, that's wrong. Well, first of all, Eskimo isn't one language. It's a family, and that family includes languages like Inuit or Yupik. And here's the trick. Those languages glue whole sentences into one long word. So it's not 100 words for different kinds of snow. It's just snow with other words that are attached to it, and the word is pretty much the whole sentence. So counting their words for snow is like saying that in English you have 1,000 words for dog, because you can write a fluffy brown running dog, and then you can keep adding more adjectives and count that as a new word. As now you know, probably this is not a distinct word. It's just adjectives describing the word snow. And if we put a hyphen right in the middle, it counts like a one word. And honestly, English is not that far behind, because we have snow, sleet, slush, blizzard, powder, flurry, frost. We just never talk about it or brag about it in the same way. or to the same extent. So the headline myth is busted, and this makes it very tempting to throw the whole hypothesis in the trash. Don't, because the linguists stopped telling stories and started running experiments instead, and things got a little bit strange. So look at these two squares. In English, we'd call both of them blue, maybe light blue and dark blue. Same basic color. But in Russian, there's no word for plain blue. There is голубой, light blue, and синие, dark blue. So to a Russian speaker, these aren't shades of one color. They're two different and distinct colors. It's like we would treat red and pink. So researchers ran a speed test. They flashed people shades of blue and asked them to spot the odd one out as fast as possible. The result? The Russian speakers were measurably faster when the colors crossed the голубой versus синие. The boundary their languages draws between these two colors allowed them to spot the differences faster. So the words were pre-sorted for them in a sense. This is not to say that Russians don't see some colors or can see some colors that we can't see. Their eyes are identical to yours and mine. It's the language that made a little bit of a difference. It's the glasses that were tainted in a different way to make them notice the difference faster than the other languages where blue, light blue, and dark blue are not considered two distinct colors. And this is what we mean by the glasses being tainted and not the cage. That is to say, linguistic relativity and not linguistic determinism. Okay, so here's the one that actually broke my brain. Imagine a language where there are no words for left or right. In Yimithir, I'm pretty sure I'm butchering the name, an Aboriginal Australian language, you don't say the cup is on your right. You say the cup is to your west. Everything is compass directions, north, south, east, west, all the time. So instead of move over a little, it's move a bit to the north. They'll even say there's an ant on your southeast leg. Now, think about what that does to you. To speak a normal sentence, you must know where the north is every single time. That is to say, while you're walking, while you're indoors, in a cave, in the dark. Researchers have found that speakers of Yimithir keep a perfect mental compass running, basically from childhood. You can drop them in unfamiliar building, for example, and they still point north without thinking. Most of us would be hopeless in these situations. And it doesn't stop there, as this perception also bleeds into time. So researchers have taken pictures of a person from their childhood to their senior years and gave them to English speakers and asked them to sort them chronologically. So the English speakers went from left to right, just like the language is written. However, for the Yimithir speakers, they arranged them from east to west, following the sun. So their sense of time was glued to the actual landscape. So that's the closest thing we have got to language actually shaping a mental skill. Not because the words have built a mental cage, but because the language forced them to train a skill that most of us were never forced to learn or train. Here's a wilder one. Some languages strongly mark the future, like English. For example, we would say, "It will rain tomorrow." Others, like German, happily say the equivalent of "tomorrow it rains," as if the future were just kind of now-ish. One economist argued that people whose languages blur the future tend to save more money because the future feels closer, more real, more like something happening to you. Now, this one is hotly debated. Critiques say that it's correlation, so it doesn't have to be proof. Culture and economics are tangled up, so file this fact under fascinating, but not really yet settled. So the question to ask now is the strong version of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis true? That is to say, linguistic determinism? Is your language a cage? The short answer is no. And here's the proof. English has no specific single word for that specific joy of laughing because someone else tripped. German does. And here's the word on the screen. Although you don't have the word in English, You do understand the feeling perfectly. You didn't need a word to have the thought. Even Whorf's boldest claim that the Hopi people, or Hopi people, I'm not sure how to say it, had no concept of time, fell apart later. Researchers showed that Hopi had plenty of ways to talk about time, and maybe the initial claim that they don't have a sense of time, or words to describe time, was a bit oversold. There are communities whose languages have almost no exact number words, just 1, 2, and many. They can clearly perceive amounts, but matching an exact big quantity gets hard without counting words to lock it in. So the words don't unlock the thought. They're like a tool that makes some thoughts easier to hold. So that's pretty much the resolution of this question. There is no cage, only tinted glasses. So you can take a sledgehammer and go and smash that cage. So here's where the science actually lands. The strong version, that is to say, language traps thought, is dead. But the weak version is quietly and beautifully alive. Your language doesn't decide what you can think. It decides what you think about by default. It's the path of least resistance for your attention. Russian splits your blues. Kuku Yimithir keeps your compass spinning. And remember that bridge from the start? You were not trapped as seeing it elegant or strong. You were just nudged toward that thought to be the default one. And this was pretty much a tiny grammatical coin flip that happened before you were even born. It tilted your imagination by a few degrees. Multiply that by every word you use and you get your own private personal lenses. The lens or lenses through which you see reality. So it's not a cage, it's a lens. So if your lens just shifted a few degrees, that's the purpose of this channel. So make sure to subscribe and check my other videos. Also, make sure to write in the comments what word in your language exists that we can't find an equivalent for in English. I read your comments all the time, so don't hesitate to drop them. And I'll see you on the next one.